Hey everybody, it's Jody. I am in the Cotton Candy Cottage today, and I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about some of the things that I have sold recently on eBay. Some things that are interesting, some things maybe I want to give you a little advice on, and some BOLOs, which means be on the lookout for things that you might see when you're out thrifting or garage sailing or whatever. So let's go. I'm going to talk about stuff that's I've sold about in the last month or so. And not everything, but just a few things that I thought were interesting. So the first one here is Care Bears Twin Flat Sheet. This sold for $20. I've had it for a while. It's been listed for a while, but I bought this at Goodwill, I think $2.99. When you're looking at sheets, vintage sheets especially, you always want to open them up and look at them because the sheets from the 80s, especially the character ones, were pretty cheap, most of them cheaply made. And so they get what's called pilling, those little fabric balls, you know, when the fabric comes up and they get really thin, like in the middle. So you want to double check that because people don't really want to buy that. Also, what happens though with these sheets is that people use them for fabric to make things. And so when you are listing it, you might want to put that as a keyword in your listing. I didn't put it in mine for some reason. I probably did a sell similar and just didn't change it, but fabric is a good keyword to put in there because people might be looking for that to make a Care Bear skirt or something like that. Okay, next item is Strawberry Shortcake Placemats. Now, these only sold for $20. I kind of thought I'd get a little bit more, but I put them on an auction. So I was happy with getting $20 for them because I bought them for 25 cents each. But vintage Strawberry Shortcake stuff that actually comes from the 80s can really be a BOLO if it is something other than dolls. I mean, there are some dolls, and you just kind of have to do the research to see which ones are better than others, but things other than dolls can do really well. So if you see Strawberry Shortcake on something, you always want to look it up just in case. There's some things that do well, some things that don't. You want to make sure that it's made by either it says American Greetings or those characters from Cleveland. If it's a brand other than that, it might not be Strawberry Shortcake, and then there's not really any money in it. So just something you might want to do a little bit of research on if you don't know what vintage Strawberry Shortcake is, because it can go for a lot, especially paper items can do really well. Next item is this Cologne Set. This is Angelique Cologne, but really any kind of perfume and cologne that's vintage, if the bottles are still relatively full. A lot of people have scents that they really loved and they don't make them anymore. This set I think is probably from the 70s. It only sold for $17.50, but I've had perfumes and colognes I've sold for $75, $80, $90 that are older. So if you're at an estate sale or a garage sale and you see vintage perfumes, look them up because they can do well. This is Kelly Clothes. Kelly is a Barbie's little sister, I guess they call her, and she's littler than Skipper. I think she's supposed to be like maybe 4 or 5 years old, and she's about 3 inches tall. And her clothes are a lot harder to find than regular Barbie clothes, so I had a couple of sets of these that I bought for $2 each, and I sold each set for $20 each. So you can be on the lookout for those, and even the dolls can do well. But, you know, it's something to look up and to look into. Here's another set here that I also sold for $20. This is a couple of posters from a pro wrestling promotion, a territorial pro wrestling promotion, which there's a lot to get into, but pro wrestling was happening all over the country. Not as much now as it used to, but there's all these little promotions, they call them. And if you come across paper that has posters, programs, photographs, they can be worth some pretty good money. These 2 posters I sold for, I believe I took an offer for $25, but they sold within a day. So, and this is from Smoky Mountain Wrestling, which was, this is in Kentucky, Ashland, Kentucky. So these kind of pop up everywhere because there are a lot of collectors of this kind of stuff. So if it's old pro wrestling stuff, these are from the 90s, but 80s, 70s, 60s, there can be some pretty good money in that if you are a person that looks at paper. This next item is candy. So I saw this in a estate sale and I thought, well, these are haunted houses, so they're interesting. And then I realized, I shook them and I realized, oh, there's candy in these. These are little candies. They're from the 80s. So of course, anytime that I have stuff that's, you know, it was once consumable, I always put in the listing, this is for collecting only. Please do not use this, or, you know, in this case, do not eat this. This is not for eating, it's for collecting only, because they're still sealed. The candy is still sealed in there. But these are super cute little haunted houses. And you can see on the back here it says Fleer Haunted House Candy. And then these are the back sides and the sides. And I sold this, I paid $1 for all 3 of these in a little baggie in an estate sale. And I sold them for $35. So I'm glad that the estate sale company had the forethought to bag them up and put a price on them, because probably most people would just throw them in the garbage. This is a package of Wham-O Magic Sand from 1981. I went to a collector show recently and I picked this up, and I just saw that it had a tag on it and I thought it was interesting looking. I paid $3, but I think this is sort of like kinetic sand, you know. Everything old is new again. Things come out and people are so excited about it, and it's like, well, that came out 40 years ago, so. This is a pair of Barbie boots. What I wanted to say about this is I bought a lot of Barbie shoes, a big bag of vintage Barbie shoes for $10. And I knew that if I did some research that I could get some decent money for them. You could also, you know, a lot of people just lot up things like that. Just make it into a lot and say, you know, $25. Here, I made $15 on it. But there are certain things where if you take the time to do some research and figure out what they are, you can really make a lot more money. And I would say there were probably 50 pairs of shoes in that bag, and I'm going to sell probably 20 of those pairs for $10 or more. And then the rest of them I made smaller lots, but that are selling for, several of them have sold for $10 and $15 as well. Lots of 3 pairs, 4 pairs, like that. But because I did the research to find out what outfits these went with, these boots themselves sold for $15. And I have already probably sold 10 or 12 pairs of the shoes for $10 to $15 each. Because I did the research, you could make a lot more money. Now, that's not the case always. You know, if you find a bunch of Barbie shoes from the 90s, you're just going to want to sell them as a lot, because it's going to be hard to find out the outfits. You might not be able to find it out. And then even when you do, it's like, oh, well, these are worth $1 each. So it's kind of something you learn over time. But in my mind, doing the research, even if it doesn't end up, you don't end up finding out that these things are worth a bunch of money, it's a good education. So, you know, lot things up, if you want to, if you don't want to take the time to do the research. But I'm going to make hundreds and hundreds of dollars off of this lot when I could have maybe just made like 15 bucks. So, you know, it's a give and take. You got to decide what you want to do. This is a set of Crazy Eights, the card game. And I just wanted to mention this because card games can do well. I was watching a video from KP Trainum, and he talked about how much old maid card games can sell for. And since I saw that, I've found probably 5 old maid decks that I've sold between $15 and $35. And so I was at Goodwill recently, and they had a bunch of different old card games for 99 cents each. So I picked them all up, and this was one of them, Crazy Eights. And it's still in its plastic, and it's also by Whitman, and I sold it for 10 bucks, and it sold in like 1 or 2 days. So quick sellers too. This is a lot of 7 photographs that I bought at an estate sale for, I paid $1 for the whole lot of 7. And they are a family's road trip pictures from the 50s in the California redwoods. And I know people love roadside attractions. I love roadside attractions. And they love the history of it. And there's a lot of fun old cars. Some of these attractions aren't there anymore. This drive-through tree is still there. There was one that fell down in a storm a couple of years ago, but it wasn't this one. This one's still there because I drove through it last year. The world famous tree house, that's still there. So I went into this gift shop, still exactly the same. So photographs can do well depending on the subject matter. And I got 15 for this lot, and it sold pretty quick too. A couple of weeks. Paper items a lot of time can be pretty long tail because you really have to find the right person. The right person's got to come along, I guess, and find it. But those went pretty quick. This is a Barbie dress. This is not just any Barbie dress, though. This is for the 18-inch tall Barbie. That she's called the supersized Barbie from 1977. And I sold this dress in 2 days for $20. It's a lot harder to find the clothes for that Barbie, and so they do well. This is a Barbie collector's keychain set. And you can see we have at the end here the original Barbie in her blue and black swimming suit, and then some of the other Barbies. This came out in the 90s, so you have some more 90s style Barbies here. I sold this set for $35. There's a lot of similar Barbie keychains that are, they're about 3 inches tall in different sets, singles, Barbie and Ken together, and they don't all do that well, maybe $10, but this whole set together for 35 bucks, that was pretty good. I paid $5 for that at a estate sale. This is a Bob Mackie wearable art scarf. I picked up a ton of Bob Mackie scarves, probably like 25, 30 at an estate sale for $1 each. And I have sold 4 or 5. I think I actually sold 5 of these. And in the beginning, I had the prices higher, $25. They went down to $20, and now they're down to $16. But I don't have any more of this style now. So scarves can do well, though. Here's another vintage pro wrestling item. It's a program from an evening's matches in 1991, and that sold for 20 bucks. This is a dream pet. Now, dream pets are from the 60s, and they're sort of the Beanie Babies of the 60s. You still find dream pets. Well, I do anyway. I find them all the time. And they don't usually sell for very much. The only ones that I'll pick up are either ones Usually I only pick up ones that still have their tags, but this one didn't. But I couldn't find a comp for this one. I thought it was interesting because it was a stork with, you know, delivering a baby, which is not really imagery that you see anymore, but but I thought it was pretty cute. So I picked that up, and it sold in one day for $12. So since I couldn't find a comp for it, it's probably more rare, and I probably should have priced it higher, but what are you gonna do? Here's more Barbie shoes. These ones, I did find out what they were from, but also that they weren't worth that much, and some of mine had some condition issues. One was broken, one was missing a blade, so I did just lot these up, and I took an offer of $8. Again, these are Dawn doll clothes. So Dawn is a smaller doll. She's only 6 inches. She's like Barbie. She's a fashion doll, but these clothes are like this big. They were never made very well to begin with, but these ones all kind of had condition issues. Otherwise, I may have sold them separately, but I got 15 for a lot of those. This one was a cool find. This is a Thomas and Friends, Thomas the Tank Engine boat. So it doesn't have wheels on it. It's not one of the train pieces. This was made by Britt Allcroft in 1992. So current Thomas things are made by Erdl. But this is one of the early ones, and it was still in the box. I took an offer of $45. And I probably could have held out for more, but I also took that offer on the second day. I should have waited, but you know, all this quarantine stuff had started, and I didn't really know how much people were going to be buying things, so I just thought, you know what, I paid $1.50 for it, I'll take it. So $45 in one day. I was pretty happy with that. These little guys here are Barbie Happy Family babies. So they're tiny. They're 2 inches. They're little. And I bought this set of 3 of them for $3 and sold them in one day for $30, $29.99. I don't know why I listed them at $29.99. I usually don't do the 99 thing. This is a portable CD player. I bought this a long time ago, over a year ago, and I thought it would sell pretty quick. The comps, or the comparables, which is basically when you look at eBay and you go to completed listings and see what other things actually sold for, not what they're listed for, but what they actually sold for. That's the comparable prices. That's what the comps are. So if you hear that from myself or other resellers, that's what that is. So the comps on this, when I was looking at it at the estate sale, were like $80 and $90. So I picked it up. I only paid, it had a $6 price tag, but I believe it was on the half price day. So I believe I only paid $3 for it. But even if I did pay $6 for it, $45 is a good return. But I had it priced up there at like $90 to start, and then it came down a little and a little and a little, and I never really got any bites until I was down to $45, which is still a good price. I'm still happy with that. I put this on here because I wanted to talk to you guys about baby crib sets. Now this is just a bumper, and typically I don't buy these, but it was half price at Goodwill, so I picked it up. And I sold it for $27.50, but I do like to buy the full crib sheet sets, like sheets, the blanket, and then maybe bumpers or quilt or whatever, you know, they come like from Target or whatever. I will pick those up when they're at Goodwill for $10 to $15, depending on the design. I've sold some of those for as high as $150. Some as low as $50, so it just kind of depends on what it is, but I don't have any now and haven't had any in a while, so, but I did want to show you guys this one because I just wanted to talk about those sets. Like it's better to get the full sets and name brand things. The Target brands are usually pretty good, and why I say name brand is because most likely if you're buying pieces, people want the piece that matches the set they already have. If you're buying the full set, though, it doesn't really matter. But things that are really cute, too, and trendy looking, I think those will sell better. This is a vintage t-shirt, and everybody knows, you know, vintage t-shirts are a big seller right now. Not as much as they were. The prices are going down, mostly because every place in the mall has vintage t-shirts that, you know, t-shirts that look like all the cool vintage t-shirts everyone was selling for hundreds of dollars a year and a half ago. If you go into like Forever 21, all of their t-shirts look like t-shirts from the 90s. But this one I picked up in an estate sale. The sale had a whole closet full of vintage shirts, but there were like 10 guys in there fighting each other for shirts. And so I only got a couple shirts from the sale, but it was like people had kind of went in another room, looked through their pile, and discarded some. And I picked this one up because I just thought it was kind of cool. It's got a blimp, and it says Hollywood on it. It's in really bad shape. I mean, it's stained, it's distressed, it's, you know, but it's from like the 70s. And anyway, I got $25 for it. So vintage t-shirts are good. Be on the lookout. And you can usually tell they're vintage because you'll hear single stitch, and that means that down here, let me see if my picture is good enough. Oh, see, there's a rip in the collar. There's stains. It's made in USA, so that can tell you right there. That's a good indication. I guess I don't have a picture of the single stitch, but single stitch would be at the bottom of the shirt. There is stitching, and in modern shirts it has 2 rows of stitching. In older shirts there's only 1, and sometimes that's also at the around the sleeves, and that's all that single stitch means, is that there's just 1 row of stitching so that it's made differently how they used to make it. Oh. Okay, so the next item, so this is kind of opposite of what I was saying about the shoes before. It's newer stuff, 70s, or not 70s, 80s, 90s, and really hard to find what sets that these might go to, so it's better to lot it up. And I got $15 for, you know, some, I mean, Barbie stuff, it's small. This is like a handful of stuff, you know, for 15 bucks. This is a Dolly Pops growing hair Dolly Pop house. Dolly Pops do not great themselves, but new in the package, you know, anything that's new in the package that's older, this is from 1981, you at least want to give it a minute to look it up on your phone, because it could be worth something. And this one, I actually had it for 90 when I first got it, and kind of brought it down little by little until we got down to 75 and somebody bought it. So I like to use what Chris the Thrift Shop Hustler calls the high-low theory, where you list something at a high price and then you can just gradually bring the price down until you find the right buyer, but trying to get the highest dollar that you can out of it, especially if something is more rare or hard to find. And this was sealed in the box, so I thought it was special. Here's another one of those card games. I got $20 for a Go Fish game from Whitman. And you find these card games, you know, but you want to look for vintage ones. The newer ones aren't, you know, they don't really sell for much, but this is made in the USA. And you really want to look at the comps, because there were people selling this same card game set that sold it for $5, but I got $20 out of it. So don't just assume it's worth nothing because it's a card game. You actually have to look at the prices and try for the highest price that you can, because you're trying to make money. This is a vintage sheet. Again, talking about sheets. We talked about sheets at the beginning. There are a lot of people that collect vintage sheets and a lot of people that like to use vintage sheets because they have a different feel than the new sheets. I don't like the new sheets at all. Like, I cannot sleep on the brushed poly cotton, whatever that like every sheet in the store is now. So I like to use vintage sheets. A lot of people do. So this was a pastel rainbow vintage sheets from, I believe, the 70s. Anytime you have things that are housewares or whatever, if it's in pastel colors, this is a good keyword here, Fairy K, K-E-I. This is a Japanese kind of collector movement where Japanese women dress in all pastel, only buy pastel furnishings for their home, etc. And so this fits into that, and it's a good keyword for you to use if you have stuff that's pastel. Clothes, toys, you know, housewares, whatever. And this sold for 30 bucks, and it sold in about 2 days for that price. And I paid, I believe, $1 for this at a sale. This I just thought was interesting. I picked this up at that same sale where I bought the t-shirts. There was a lot of interesting stuff at that sale, and all people cared about that went there were the t-shirts. They also had video games too, but the estate sale company had the video games priced at about twice what you get for them on eBay. So I went back on the last day of the sale and they hadn't sold any of the games. But most people went there looking for the t-shirts. And I found so much other cool stuff at this sale. And this was one of the items. This is a table mobile. It doesn't have any sort of branding on it or anything. I only found one other something even similar on eBay, and they wanted $15 for this, and I thought, ugh, I don't know if it's, you know, worth that, but I listed it for $60, and I had this in my death pile for a long time because I just didn't know what to price it at. I listed it for $60, and it sold within a week for 60 bucks. And the last item that I want to talk about is shoe boxes. This is not a pair of shoes. This is just an old Nike shoebox. And it's a woman's shoebox too. It's not even a men's shoe. And it sold for, I believe I took an offer of $13. I paid $1 for it from a sale. So if you see old shoebox, people like old Nikes, so they're gonna want an old box to go for their old Nikes that they found. So don't discount those. And a lot of times you'll find them at estate sales where they just put stuff in them to display it. You can take it up to the register and say, I don't want all this stuff in this box, but I want the box. Can I buy the box? So, and this sold relatively quickly. Okay guys, I think that is everything that I wanted to share with you today. I hope you found some interesting information on this video. I hope you found some things that you're going to look out for in the future. If you found any of these things, let me know down in the comments below, or what's the coolest thing that you sold this month. Let me know down in the comments below. And if you have a what sold on eBay video that you want to share, put that in the comments below too, and people can look and maybe find your video. Okay, thanks for watching. Make sure to comment, like, and subscribe. Check out my playlist, my YouTube playlist for other reseller video content. This channel doesn't have a ton of reseller content on it, but it does have some, so check it out. See you next time. Bye!